Welcome everyone in this new video tutorial about the multiplayer combat editor. In this video we are adding a bunch of information to the modifier skill feature. So if we open up the modifier we created in the previous video, which is the possession talent, we can see that we are finding a skill to modify and we are modifying it. And you might wonder, so there is a bit of setup there, which is strange. If you remember the previous video, we were actually adding that modifier to the character, and then the modifier is trying to find the skill on the character. But you might be wondering, why aren't we adding the modifier directly to the skill itself, since add modifier takes an object as parameter? And especially since when you type in add modifier, when you type in add stat modifier in there, we added the BP talent possession to the character. So if we are calling add stat modifier, it's going to modify the stats of the character, since the talent is on the character. But maybe you want to modify the stat of the skill, and in that case it makes even more sense to directly apply add modifier to your skill when you add that modifier. When you add talent possession, it will make sense to target the skill itself right away. But the problem with this is that the networked modifier feature can only store modifier applied to actors, and skills are actors components. So I had to build a way. I was forced. So maybe you don't want to use that feature, the networked modifier feature, and to spawn your modifiers. And in that case, you can use add modifier and target your skill directly, and add stat modifier to your skill using that feature. But if you want to use the networked modifier feature, you'll have to add the modifier to your character and then modify the skill through that function, find skill to modify. So talent possession is applied to our character. And then if we use that feature, add stat modifier, we are going to modify the stat of our character. But we can also modify the stat of our skill if we want to. We already saw that we were able to modify the cost of our skill, but you can also directly drag a wire out of the found skill pin and type it get stats manager, and this will give you the stat manager of your skill if you specify skill, and you can add a stat modifier to that stat manager manually. Add stat modifier, and it looks like the same function that I just showed you, add stat modifier, but you can see that there is a modifier ID there. That's because you have to handle manually the list of modifiers you apply to that skill. You'll have to remember all of them in order for you to be able to remove them when the modifier is removed. So, and all of that logic, storing the list of modifiers, is automatically handled by the modifier itself when you are using this built-in function, instead of dragging the stat manager and using the add stat modifier function of the stat manager. But in our case, maybe we want to decrease the cooldown of our talent possession, and in that case you can say that you want to modify the cooldown by -1, and there is not going to be any condition to that modifier, and it's going to be a bonus, and we're going to store that into a variable modified stat ID, like this. And then we are going to need to remove that when we remove the skill by grabbing the stat manager of the skill and calling remove stat modifier, obviously. We want to remove the cooldown buff we added at that spot. And then we also want to validate the skill modifier in case we modified some stuff. And we want to go to our skill, open up Wololo, and increase its cooldown by default to, I don't know, for instance, 1.5. And when we use the skill, it has 1.5 cooldown. And we cannot use it anymore because we don't have mana. So we're going to reduce the mana cost so we can use several times in succession. So we can use the spell, everything is alright. And then we update our spell. So how do we update the spell already? I'm sorry, I forgot. Okay, so we don't have any buffing logic yet. So we are going to create one. Did I get rid of it? It's quite strange. I didn't want to get rid of it, so let's just say we have the input P there, which is going to call that event, which is going to be run on server and reliable. It's going to flip-flop, and it's going to add a networked modifier, and it's going to remove the networked modifier, and it's going to add the talent possession to our third-person character like that, and we are going to store the ID of the modifier like that, and we are going to remove that ID when we repress the button like that. We can hit compile, hit play. So when I press A, I have 1.5 seconds cooldown. When I press P, it's updating, and now I have only 0.5 cooldown. When I repress it, I have 1.5 cooldown. And same goes for the clients. As you can see. So this is how you can modify this. So this is how you can modify a skill using the networked feature. So you can properly, so you know for sure that if someone disconnects, reconnects, if someone connects with delay, everyone is going to have the proper skill modifiers set up on their skills. And this is how you can modify the stat of your skills, even though you have to manually handle the list of modified stat. So it's going to wrap up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.